made it. Today in the Mummy Saga, we are talking about the most controversial chapter in this franchise, because after the Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, the series disappeared for nearly a decade. For a long time, it seemed like the adventure of Rick O'Connell and his family had come to an end, and the franchise had been buried. But in 2017, the studio made a bold decision. Instead of continuing the original storyline, they decided to start over, a full reboot, if you would, a dark universe built around classic monsters, and starting with the movie The Mummy. And on paper, the project sounded massive. It wasn't just supposed to be another Mummy movie, it was meant to be the beginning of something much bigger, a shared universe. A dark universe. I'm sorry, I gotta quit. But when the film finally arrived, the reaction was mixed at best. And let me go and stop right here. Is that just not the dumbest thing ever? They were like, yeah, like, what was the plan? Were they gonna have like an Avengers Endgame? Like, maybe, I don't know, have like, let's say, an evil version of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, like the Bride of Frankenstein or something like that, where they're all like gonna team up and fight? Like, what the hell was the goal? But when the film finally arrived, the reaction was mixed at best. So today, we're diving into a movie that had enormous expectations, ambitious plans, and a legacy it struggled to live up to. But before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon producers. Thank you guys for supporting the channel and helping these videos happen. If you want even more content like spoiler reviews, movie vlogs, game reviews, and early uploads like this, check out the Patreon link in the description. To understand this film, you have to understand the idea behind it. I don't think anybody could. But Universal Pictures wanted to bring back their classic monsters like Dracula, the Invisible Man, Wolfman, and connect them in the MCU-style universe. They called it the Dark Universe. This was clearly inspired by the success, like I said, of the MCU, of other universes they're building towards, and The Mummy 2017 was supposed to be that foundation. It was supposed to be their Iron Man. It would introduce new characters, establish the rules of this universe, and set up future stories involving other monsters. The ambition was quite huge, but that ambition also created some pressure because the movie had to do more than tell a good story. It had to launch an entire franchise. So instead of Rick O'Connell, the film introduced a completely new protagonist. We got Nick Morton, played by Tom Cruise. Nick is very different from the heroes we've seen before. He's not a noble adventurer. He is not a family man. He's more of a rogue, I guess, if you would. He's like a soldier who survives by bending the rules and looking out for himself. And that personality shift kind of changes the whole tone of this story, because where Rick O'Connell was charming and heroic, Nick Morton is more cynical and unpredictable. That makes him interesting, but it also makes him harder to connect with emotionally in this runtime. So the central threat in this film, the Mummy herself, is Princess Amenet, played by Sofia Boutella. Her backstory is one of the strongest parts of this movie. She was once destined to rule Egypt, but when her birthright was taken away, she made a deal with a dark power in exchange for revenge. That decision led to her being cursed and buried alive, a punishment meant to keep her evil contained forever, but of course it didn't. And this origin story mirrors the tragic elements that made Imhotep such a compelling villain in earlier films. But the film approaches her character with a darker tone. She's definitely more ruthless, more violent, a little bit more creepy, and more destructive, especially having, extra CGI here since it's 2017 now. Now, one of the biggest differences between this movie and the earlier entries in the franchise is its overall tone. The original films balanced horror with humor and adventure, and this reboot pretty much just leans heavily into action and supernatural horror. The atmosphere is definitely a lot darker. They meant it when they said dark universe. And the stakes feel a lot more serious in the sense of that fun had defined the earlier movies, but it's largely absent here. That tonal shift divided audience, and some appreciated the darker approach. Not me, because I just somehow completely missed this in the theaters back in the day. And others missed the lighthearted energy of that original trilogy. In terms of spectacle, the Mummy 2017 delivers some impressive sequences. There is a plane crash scene that unfolds in zero gravity. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna give you flowers. There are large-scale battles involving supernatural forces. Pretty cool. And there are moments of visual destruction that feel very massive in scope, but spectacle alone, unfortunately, isn't enough to carry that story, and that is where this film begins to struggle. Now, another major focus of the movie is, of course, world building, because like I said, this is their Iron Man 1. The story introduces an organization dedicated to tracking and containing supernatural threats, led by Dr. Jekyll himself. Russell Crowe, yes. Actually, that was not bad casting. The idea was to create a shared universe where multiple films could connect and build towards large conflicts, but in practice, this setup sometimes feels a lot forced, like he's just kind of in the movie, instead of focusing entirely on its own story that they were already building towards. Now, I do think there are definitely things this movie does well. Like I said, I think the action scenes are not that bad. Sophia Boutella delivers a strong performance as the villain. She's bringing intensity and physicality to this role. The visual effects are actually pretty impressive, and the film attempts to bring classic monster mythology into a modern setting, which is also pretty cool. Dracula Untold is one of my favorite monster type movies because they do that same thing. The filmmakers weren't just, trying to make another sequel. They were trying to reinvent the franchise, at least trying something new. Hey, I'll give it to them. Now, it doesn't work as at the same time the film tries to struggle all that with some balance, and it doesn't work. The tone's very inconsistent, pacing's very uneven, and the focus on building a large universe sometimes overshadows that central story. Perhaps most importantly, the movie lacks a sense of fun and adventure that made the original film so memorable. Without that emotional connection, the spectacle feels a lot less engaging. So, when The Mummy 2017 was released, it also didn't perform as well as the studio had hoped. Critical reception was mixed, but usually we can see, especially back then, that was fine. But it was not. And the ambitious Dark Universe plan was quickly put on hold. They didn't even try to get one more out of the door. I can at least see they tried to, let's do one. No, they said, we're done. Building a franchise stopped, but even though the Dark Universe didn't succeed, the story of the Mummy was not clearly over, because years later, we're getting this new chance. So the next video on this franchise will be the 2026 Lee Cronin film, which I'm actually excited for. I know a lot of people are going in with negative attitudes on that. I just feel like, we live in this society online where everybody critiques everything and everybody gets mad about everything before they even say anything. Just like this movie, I think that without the charm and humor and sense of adventure that defined the earlier films, it kind of struggled to capture the magic of the original. And I feel like this new one is just kind of like, hey, we're not doing anything with the original. We're just like, hey, it's a mummy story, new stelling, whatever. And so, yeah, as we reach the destination for this entire journey has been building towards, there will be a ranked video at the end of this. If you're watching the compilation format, which I will be making, that'll be the exact next thing that pops up after the review. And so, yes, Mummy 2026 is coming. Like, subscribe for that, and I will give you my honest review. I hope it doesn't suck. It looks like it doesn't suck, but it could. It could. It could. And I'm scared. They're doing it again.